Welcome back to our recording of Treasure Island. Today we're on chapter 28, In the Enemy's Camp. And this chapter actually begins our part 6 of the book, which is on Captain Silver. The glare of the torch lighting up the interior of the blockhouse revealed the pirates in possession of the house and stores with not a sign of any prisoner. I could only judge that all had perished. There were 6 buccaneers all told. Not another man was left alive. Now 5 of them were on their feet, flushed and swollen, called out of their drunken sleep. The 6th had only risen up upon his elbow. He was deadly pale, and the blood-stained bandage round his head told me that he had recently been wounded. I remembered the man who had been shot and had run back among the woods in the attack. So guys, just to recall where we ended in the last chapter, remember that Jim thinks when he goes to the stockade and enters the blockhouse, he hears the snoring and the pecking, and then come to find out it's actually Captain Silver, or Long John Silver, right, and all his men, and Jim's taken by surprise. So that's where we've picked up now. So, said Long John, here's Jim Hawkins, shimmer my timbers, dropped in like a... And he sat down across the brandy cask and began to fill a pipe. Give me a light, Dick, said he. And so, Jim, quite a pleasant surprise. I seen you were smart when first I set my eyes on you, but this here gets away from me clean, it does. So he's very confused. Like, why in the world is Jim just walking right into the blockhouse, right? He thinks that perhaps he's made a terribly stupid mistake in coming and just waltzing right in the middle of the night, right? And did you guys catch the shimmer me timbers or shimmer my timbers? That's that saying that we hear on even pirate movies and stuff. If you've ever watched any of I guess Pirates of the Caribbean, a little old for you, but if you ever watch any pirate movies, they usually will say shimmer me timbers, and that comes from this book. I stood there looking Silver in the face, pluckily enough, I hope, to all outward appearance, but with black despair in my heart. So he's trying to act all cool about it, but really he's feeling very worried and scared inside, Jim is, because he's not sure if they're going to try to kill him or not. Silver took a whiff or two of his pipe. Now, you see, Jim, since you are here, says he, I'll give you a piece of my mind. I've always liked you for a lad of spirit. I always wanted you to find and take your share. And now you've got to. Captain Smollett's a fine seaman, and I'll own up to any day. But stiff on discipline. Duty is duty, says the captain, and right he is. The doctor himself has gone against you. Ungrateful scamp was what he said. So he's talking about Captain Smollett called Jim an ungrateful scamp. You can't go back to your own lot, for they won't have you. You'll have to join with Captain Silver. Well, so far so good. My friends, then, were at least still alive, and though I partly believed that they were incensed at me for my desertion, meaning mad at him, I was more relieved than distressed by what I heard. So he's feeling very relieved to at least know that they are alive and not dead. Well, am I to answer then? I asked with a very tremulous voice, so he's kind of worried. Through all of this sneering talk, I was made to feel the threat of death, and my heart beat painfully in my breast. None of us won't hurry you, said Silver. Well, says I, growing a bit bolder, if I'm to choose, I have a right to know why you're here and where my friends are. Well, batten down your hatches till you're spoke to, cried Silver. And that simply means to be quiet. When they say batten down your hatches, just means be quiet. So be quiet until you're spoken to. Then in gracious tones he said, Yesterday morning, Mr. Hawkins, said he, down came Dr. Livesey with a flag of truce. So this is what Captain Smollett told him. Captain Silver, you're sold out. Ship's gone. Well, maybe we'd been taking a glass. Leastwise, none of us had looked out. So now he's talking about how he felt. We looked out, and by thunder, the old ship was gone. Well, says the doctor, let's bargain. We bargained, him and I, and here we are, stores, brandy, blockhouse, the firewood, and the boat. Now, as for them, they've tramped. I don't know where they are. So, in other words, Captain Smollett has given a flag of truce, come down with like a flag of truce, meaning peace, that he comes in peace, that he doesn't mean to harm them. And he talked to Long John Silver about the situation that they all found themselves in, because remember, the only person who knows where the ship is Jim, but none of them know that Jim knows. So they all think that they're doomed, that they're going to be stranded on this island together. So they made like a peace treaty, in other words. He drew again quietly at his pipe. And in case you should take it up into that head of yours, he went on, that you was included in the treaty when I asked, how many are you? 4, says he, and one of us is wounded. As for that boy, I don't know where he is, and I don't much care. So that's what Captain Smollett told Silver, that he only had 4 men, so he never included Jim in his count. Well, said I know pretty well what I have to look for. Let the worst come. It's little I care. So this is Jim talking. I've seen too many die since I fell in with you, but there's a thing or two I have to tell you, I said, and by this time I was quite excited. Here you are, in a bad way. Your ship's lost, treasure lost, men lost, your whole business gone to wreck. And if you want to know who did it, it was I. I was in the apple barrel the night we sighted land, and I heard you, John, and you, Dick Johnson, and Hans, Hans, who is now at the bottom of the sea, and I told every word you said before the hour was out. And as for the schooner, it was I who cut her cable, and it was I that killed the men you had aboard her, and it was I who brought her where you'll never see her more, not one of you. The laugh's on my side. I no more fear you than I fear a fly. Kill me if you please, or spare me, but one thing I'll say, and no more. If you spare me, bygones are bygones, and when you fellows are in court for piracy, I'll save you all I can. You choose. Kill me and do yourselves no good, or spare me and keep a witness to save you from the gallows. So Jim got really brave and really bold, and he just made his own bargain and said that really he's been the brains behind this entire ordeal, and that it was him that did everything, and that it can be him that actually saves their lives if they spare his life and let him live. I stopped, out of breath. Not a man moved, but all sat staring at me like sheep. And while they were still staring, I broke out again. And now, Mr. Silver, I said, I believe you're the best man here. And if things go to the worst, I'll take it kind of you to let the doctor know the way I took it. I'll bear it in mind, said Silver with an accent so curious that I could not decide whether he was laughing at my request or had been favorably affected by my courage. I'll put one to that, cried the old mahogany-faced seaman, Morgan by name, whom I had seen in Long John's public house in Bristol. It was him that knowed Black Dog. It was the same boy that faked the chart from Billy Bones, said the sea cook. First and last, we've split upon Jim Hawkins. Then here goes, said Morgan with an oath, and he sprang up, drawing his knife. Avast there, Tom Morgan, cried Silver. Maybe you thought you was captain in here. I'll teach you better. You cross me and you'll go where any man's gone before, to feed the fishes. Meaning I'll kill you and throw you in the water and you can be eaten by all the fish. So Tom Morgan is kind of going against Long John Silver. Morgan paused, but a hoarse murmur rose from the other. Tom's right, said one. Did any of you gentlemen want to have it out with me? Roared Silver. Him that wants shall get it. I'm ready. Take a cutlass. Him that dares, and I'll see the color of his insides. Not a man stirred, not a man answered. So, Long John Silver has quite the problem on his hand. His own men are going against him. That's your sort, is it? He added, returning his pipe to his mouth. Not much worth, you ain't. I'm captain here because I'm the best man by a sea mile. You won't fight as gentlemen of fortune should. Then by thunder, you'll obey. That boy is more a man than any pair of you. So he's saying you're all a bunch of cowards, that the minute I stood up against you, you all cowarded down and wouldn't fight me. And that Jim had more courage and was more of a man than all of them. There was a long pause after this. I stood straight up against the wall, my heart still going like a sledgehammer, but with a ray of hope now shining in my bosom, meaning inside, as scared as he is, he's feeling rather hopeful. Silver leaned back as calm as though he had been in church, yet his eye kept wandering upon his unruly followers. They drew together toward the far end of the blockhouse, whispering. One after another they would look up, but it was not towards me. It was towards Silver that they turned their eyes. Ask your pardon, sir, said one of the men. You're pretty free with some of the rules. We don't like bullying. This crew has rights like other crews. By your own rules, we can talk together. I ask your pardon, sir, acknowledging you for to be a captain at present, but I claim my right and steps outside for a council. And with an elaborate salute, this fellow, a yellow-eyed man of 35, so he's 35, stepped coolly out of the house. One after another, the rest followed him, each making a salute as he passed, and left Silver and me alone. So what he's saying is that the men that went against, so Long John Silver's men that went against him, they are saying that they acknowledge that he's the captain, but they would like to talk to each other in private, away from him. So they've stepped out of the building or out of the blockhouse and left Silver and Jim alone. Now you look here, Jim Hawkins, Silver said in a whisper that was barely audible. You're near your death, and, what's worse, of torture. They're going to throw me off, but you mark. I stand by you through thick and thin. I didn't mean to. No, not till you spoke, but I see you as the right sort. I says to myself, you stand by Hawkins, John, and Hawkins will stand by you. You mean all's lost? I asked. I do, he answered. Ship's gone, net gone. That's the size of it. Once I looked into that bay and seen no schooner, well, I gave out. As for that lot, mark me, they're outright fools. I'll save your life if I can, from them, but tit for tat, Jim. You save Long John Silver from swinging. So he's saying you better stay true to your word, Jim, that when I get arrested for being a pirate, you better keep me from being hung for it. I was bewildered. It seemed a hopeless thing that he was asking. He, the ringleader throughout. Well, what I can do, I'll do, I said. Well, it's a bargain, cried Long John. You speak up plucky, and by thunder, I'll have a chance. He hobbled to the torch to light his pipe. Understand me, Jim, he said, returning. I've a head on my shoulders, I have. I'm on Squire's side now. I know you've got that ship safe somewhere. How you done it, I don't know. I guess Hands and O'Brien turned soft. I know when a game's up, I do, and I know a lad that's staunch. You that's young, you and me might have done a power of good together. He drew some cognac from the cask. So cognac is a type of alcoholic beverage. So he drew some cognac from the cask into a tin can and offered me some. When I had refused, he said, well, I'll take a drain myself, Jim, for there's trouble on hand. And talking of trouble, why did that doctor give me the chart, Jim? My face expressed wonder so unaffected that he saw the needlessness of further question. There's something under that, no doubt. And he took another swallow of the brandy, shaking his head like a man who looks forward to the worst. So Jim can tell that Long John Silver is feeling very worried, that he's feeling defeated and knows that he no longer has control of the situation. And we're going to leave off there because our next chapter in 29, we read about the black spot again. And remember, we talked about the black spot from the very beginning of the book, that when somebody received the black spot, it was kind of a doom for death. So that'll be our next chapter.